I were you, I'd stay over there. I don't know what I got, but it's kind of nasty.
Okay, you're saying traveling on planes to and from DC, you're going to pick up something?
Oh, God. All right. Oh, there's. Hello. Okay. You ready?
I think we're good, yes. Yeah.
Well, let's start with our backyard here. The train problem. Shutting the city down when the trains come through has been about 100 years long problem. We finally got the money to fix it. We have to go through environmental assessments, regulatory reforms, but I'm hoping that we'll find a solution to the train running through Columbia, shutting part of the city down. And when I went to school here, I lived it as much as anybody else, so I'm hopeful that the appropriations has been made. That was one of my top priorities for Columbia, and we will hopefully get the environmental assessments done, all the things that we need to do to make it happen soon, which will change the quality of life in Columbia. It will be good for businesses who are affected by it. It will be good for the university, which is moving in that part of town. So I think help is on the way when it comes to dealing with the problems that trains create when they run through downtown Columbia. Today is Holocaust Remembrance Day. Just watching outside, there's the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz, the death camp in Poland. I was there less than a year ago. Why do we remember? We remember to pay homage to the victims of the Holocaust, keep their memory alive, and we should remember to make sure that the conditions that led to the Holocaust are never again repeated. On the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz, the one and only Jewish state Israel is surrounded by enemies on all sides. Iran, which is being run by a religious theocracy, religious Nazis, are close to developing a nuclear weapon, and I believe they would use it against Israel if they ever acquired it. The International Criminal Court has issued arrest warrants against the Prime Minister of Israel and the Defense Minister for defending the State of Israel against Hamas. So it is hard to believe that 80 years later, Jewish students can't go to school on certain campuses in America without being harassed, that another group is trying to acquire the capability to kill all the Jews, the Iranians, and anti-Semitism is at an all-time high. This worries me. It worries me a lot. Now's the time to double down, be in Israel's court without apology, give Israel what they need to survive, and try to find a way to integrate the region where the Arabs and the Israelis can live in peace. I've been working on that for 2.5 years. The big issue that we're facing as Republicans, and this is a self-inflicted wound, is what do we do regarding reconciliation? In the last 100 years, there have been 4 occasions where the Republican Party had the House, the Senate, and the White House. 4 times in 100 years. And when you have that combination, you can use budget reconciliation to do things that you couldn't do otherwise. Obamacare was passed by the Democrats through budget reconciliation. The Inflation Reduction Act was passed by Democrats using reconciliation. We want to make the tax cuts permanent. The 2017 Trump tax cuts were created through reconciliation in 2017. They expire at the end of the year. The border czar, Tom Homan, said yesterday his plan to secure the border and create deportations of criminal aliens is hitting a wall because he doesn't have the money. To my Republican colleagues, we got plenty of time to deal with the expiring tax cuts. I'm urging us to act quickly. Start reconciliation with money for the border and money for the Defense Department because the threats in this world are very real. So I'm going to push as hard as I can a two-bill step. The first bill will be $200 billion for the military, $100 billion for border security. That money will allow us to continue to build the wall, complete the wall, technology in place to reinforce the wall, create bed space so we can detain criminal aliens, not let them loose. We have 41,000 detention beds in this country, and we need about 150,000. We need to hire more ICE agents to hunt these people down and deport them. You cannot have mass deportation without more money. $100 billion, I think, is what they need, and we need to get it to them quickly. Finally, this afternoon, we're going to vote in the Senate to make Scott Bassett the next Secretary of Treasury. He's from Charleston, South Carolina. We're extremely proud of him. This is a big day, I think, for the people of South Carolina. The next Secretary of Treasury is one of our own. He grew up in Little River, South Carolina, and has got quite a story. So I look forward today to voting for Scott. I think he'll get a lot of bipartisan support, and he will be a great team member to President Trump to get America up and running and revitalized. So, questions?
Senator Graham, you just opened by talking about that money coming to the city for the railroads. It's
Yeah.
coming from the Federal Railroad Commission, so it's not Bipartisan Infrastructure Act or
Yeah.
Inflation Reduction, but the president has signed an EO looking into pausing funding from those two major infrastructure spending bills. So what's your reaction to that when we're talking about the need for infrastructure and stuff that's already been approved?
Yeah, I think we'll be good here. These kind of things that we actually want. And again, it didn't come from the bill itself. So yeah, I think we'll be fine. But we need to go look at the bill that the president put on pause. A lot of the money, I think, is just claw it back and spend it on the border.
Have you been happy with President Trump's picks so far?
Yeah, I think he's done a good job so far. I really do. Rubio was a home run. Scott's great. Yeah, he's going to have a good team in place.
Senator, your campaign manager is here. Obviously, you're up for re-election next year. Are you expecting any kind of serious primary challenge?
I always expect to be challenged. So, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. We'll be ready. We're going to be well financed, and I've got, I think, a good story to tell why I should keep this job. I enjoy this job. I think I'm good at it. I think I'm a solid, very strong conservative, but I like to get things done.
Yesterday on Meet the Press, you said it was a mistake for President Trump to pardon violent offenders from January 6th.
Yeah, I understand, the ones who beat up cops. I've been in this business for quite a while. From day one, I've always had the police officers back. I don't want to do anything that would invite violence against those who risk their lives every day to protect us. So I don't like anything, no matter, even if a friend does it, that would send the wrong signal. So until I leave this job, I will do everything I can to support the police, and we don't want to encourage violence.
You've often said your relationship with Trump is kind of love-hate from time to time. You like him, he likes him. How often can you really push back on President Trump before he really cuts you off?
I appreciate my relationship with President Trump very much. He's a very good friend, and sometimes we disagree, but generally speaking, I'm always there when he needs me the most. I believe in what he's trying to do for the country. I think he's been an excellent president. 4 years, the first 4 years, I liked strong military, bringing the world together, the Abraham Accords. So I'll be there for him.
Senator, inflation has been a top issue for the president and appealing to the American people, but now he says that's not his number one priority. What's your opinion on that?
I think the number one priority is the border. For every time he talked about the price of goods and services, he talked about the border. The way you get inflation down is you open up oil and gas reserves that we own for drilling. The more supply, the less the cost. So gas prices should be coming down this year as we open up areas that we own in America to generate more gas and oil. In terms of food prices, I think the best thing we can do is get good tax policy in place so that people can stay in business and have certainty in their taxes. But my number one goal right now, to be honest with you, is secure the border. We've got people in this country who are associated with terrorists. We've got people in this country that are part of criminal gangs that wreak havoc on our nation. 3,000 Americans die every 2 weeks from fentanyl poisoning coming from Mexico. My goal is to shut the border down when it comes to illegal crossings and drugs flowing into our country, deport people who should not be here that present threats to our nation. That is my number one goal. I think inflation over time will come down, particularly in the area of gas prices, as we find more oil and gas here and drill here at home.
Senator, we've got an order from the president to look into FEMA. There's been talks of even getting into the agency. What do you think should happen?
You know, FEMA is frustrating at times. His approach is let the states do it and we'll just write them a check. Probably somewhere in the middle is where we'll wind up. I'd like to make it easier to help people with disaster relief, and looking at FEMA in terms of can we make it better, I think we absolutely should. He called me about that not long ago, a couple of days ago. He called me about, you know, what can we do? He went to North Carolina, he went to California, we talked afterwards, and the devastation, he said, in California was just like something out of a horror movie. So if you want to look at FEMA, reshape FEMA to make it more effective, count me in.
Senator, can you clarify your comments there about, you said clawing back money from the Inflation Reduction Act and the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act. Did you mean COVID, or do you think that money that has been approved by Congress for infrastructure like broadband, roads, bridges, water?
Yeah, I think
Should we call it
mostly the
order?
COVID money, yeah. Yeah, yeah. See, I voted for the bipartisan infrastructure bill. Round 2 was not about infrastructure. It was more social engineering.
To go back to something you mentioned on Meet the Press, you had said that Trump technically broke the law when you were talking about the January.
I think, I think the law said, I don't have a problem with him firing inspector generals or replacing people. It's his administration. Why should you expect him not to replace people and put in place people who buy into what he's doing? So I don't have any problem at all with him firing the inspector generals. I think statutorily you should have given us 30 days notice, but I'm okay. This idea that somehow you're upending democracy by replacing people with your people is ridiculous. You know, every time I go on TV is, you know, like I told you about the pardons. I don't like things that might encourage violence in the future. But, you know, you can't talk about it. I don't like, you know, what Biden did. There's two ladies were shot in the head and killed by a bank robber here in South Carolina, got the death penalty, and, you know, he commuted the sentence to, I don't like that either. And so, anyway, that's the way it is.
Senator, can you walk us through, I mean, you're chairman of the budget committee now, so that's going to be ground zero for a lot of this stuff when we talk about
It will be ground zero.
And so I know you've been talking about it, but can you maybe just walk us through how you see this happening? I know you're talking about 2 bills.
Can I get some water? Yeah.
It
Yeah,
sounds like
hang
a
on
long
second.
response
Yeah,
comment.
This is a dry subject. I'm going to try to explain what we're trying to do here. Okay, what am I trying to accomplish? I would like the budget committee to pass a budget resolution that would provide $100 billion to secure the border, hire more ICE agents to track down the criminals, create more detention beds so you don't have to let people go. I'd like to give $200 billion to the military so they can modernize to better compete against China. I want to do that as a single standalone bill. If you do the one big beautiful bill, the tax policy is complicated. I also want spending cuts. Let's put that exercise off till later in the year, because it's going to take till later in the year to figure out how to do it. The 200 billion and the 100 billion will be paid for. I'm going to find cuts in other parts of the government to offset this spending. Budget reconciliation allows me, as the budget chairman, to make these decisions. In 1974, we created a law that allows budget reconciliation. You spend more in one area, you reduce spending in others. You can do this with a majority vote. Why is this so important? The only way we'll ever get money to secure the border the way Donald Trump would like, President Trump, is to do it through reconciliation. Democrats are not ever going to give us the money we need to do what President Trump wants on the border and deportation. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity for Republicans and Republicans only to give President Trump the money he needs to execute his immigration plan. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity to get money for the military without having to increase non-defense spending because you're negotiating with our Democratic friends. If we don't take advantage of this, we got nobody to blame but ourselves. So I would like to start this in the next 2 weeks. I would like by the end of February, early March at the latest, to have passed through reconciliation funding for the border. ICE agents to find the criminals, bed space to make sure you don't let bad people go, and finish the wall and help the military. The one big beautiful bill approach, I fear, is going to take too long to put together. And if there's a terrorist attack on our homeland and we had an opportunity not to secure the border, and we didn't take it, we're in trouble. So I am focused like a laser on this. I want to make the tax cuts permanent, but we have time to do that. So that's what I'm trying to do as budget chairman, is start the process now. And the House is meeting today. Now, I respect Mike Johnson as much as anybody I've ever met in Washington. But this idea of linking them all together, I think is a risky idea.
And it has to come from the House, correct?
The taxes do. But money for the border and the military can start in the Senate. I can't start a reconciliation process affecting the tax code because of the revenue spending. But I can do border and military in the Senate first. And I'm getting so many calls from House members, go do it. House members want to go put points on the board. They want to be able to tell their constituents that we provided the money to President Trump to do what he promised to do. We made promises on this above all others, that we would quickly go after the criminal illegal immigrants and get them out of here. Colombia. Any country that doesn't work with us is going to pay a heavy price. There's a new sheriff in town. When Colombia pushed back that we were going to send back to Colombia people who came here illegally, they said they're not going to take them. Well, that lasted about 5 minutes. So Trump is serious, but he needs the money. Tom Homan was on TV yesterday saying, I've hit a wall. I'm trying to build a wall, but I've hit a wall. I can't do my job as directed because I don't have enough money. To the Republican Party, we should go hard and quick on getting the money to execute the deportation plan, finish the wall that Trump promised the American people and that we all ran on. If we don't get this right, this will hurt us. This will hurt us down the road big time.
Economists say that they fear some of the taxes and tariffs may in fact worsen the effects of inflation in the economy.
Everybody I've talked to, Scott Bassett, said if you don't make the tax cuts permanent, you'll ruin the economy. Tariffs. Now, we've seen the power of tariffs. When Colombia refused to take the flights of illegal immigrants, Trump said, I'm going to put tariffs, and that changed behavior. Tariffs are tools to get people to change behavior. India puts tariffs on just about everything we send into India. Tariffs exist all over the world. I'm going to defer to President Trump about how to use tariffs. Whatever he says, I will support. This is something that's really important to him, and we'll see where it goes.
The governor is set to be the longest serving governor this week. Do you have any
Yeah.
messages for Governor McMaster?
Yeah, you're doing really good for a long time. Keep it up. Henry has been one of the most successful governors since I've been around. He aggressively recruits industry. He's been strong on keeping us safe. He's made our state a prosperous, good place to do business. He's a handshake kind of guy. I've been in many meetings where Governor McMaster was trying to recruit somebody to come to our state, and I'm just really impressed with him. He's a dear friend, and I think he's going to go down in history as one of the greatest governors we've ever had.
I know President Trump has talked about Ukraine and Russia. Talk about funding for Ukraine.
I think this war needs to come to an end. And the first thing out of President Trump's mouth was, if Russia doesn't come to the table, we're going to put sanctions on Russia. I like that. Maybe tariffs on Russia. How does this war end? You got to end it in a way that you don't create another war. My goal is to end this war, and Russia will be deterred to invade down the road. Now, whether or not Ukraine should be in NATO is an open question. But I would say this: any security agreements we give to Ukraine, there should be some understanding. If the Russians ever do this again, Ukraine's going into NATO through a fast-track process. So I want to make sure that whatever we do to end this war, that we do it in a way that the Chinese saw it as a loser for Putin. I don't want to humiliate Putin, but I do want to end it in a fashion that will not entice other people to do this in the future. I think Trump will get the best deal for Ukraine of any president I could think of.
You talked about trying to get some of Trump's priorities done quickly.
Yes.
When you have control of the House, the Senate, and the White House. How much time realistically does Trump really have to get his priorities done?
I think 2025 is the most important year of his 4-year term. We'll be going into the midterms next year. So this is the year to get your priorities in place. And in this year, it's really 6 months. We need in the first 6 months, we need to make the tax cuts permanent. We need to fund the border security funding, beef up the military, do all the things that he said he wanted to do aggressively in 2025, because it's really not 4 years. The first year is the most important year. In 26, you'll be trying to make sure you keep the House and the Senate. So I told him 2025 will define your second term. 2025, I think, will define where you're at in history. Can we do a deal with the Saudis and Israel in 2025? Maybe another country. Can we bring the war, can we make sure Hamas is gone forever in 2025? Can we get Saudi Arabia and Israel to normalize? Can we end the war in Ukraine in a fashion that aggression is deterred in the future and Ukraine is still standing as a sovereign, independent country? These two wars that we're dealing with, where thousands of people have been killed, they need to end in 2025. But they need to end in a way to make to deter further aggression. They need to end in a way in the Mideast where Israel never has to worry about another October the 7th. Also in 2025, he needs to make a decision about Iran. The biggest threat that the world faces is a nuclear-armed Iran. They're very close. If they had a nuclear weapon, I believe they would use it. I believe the regime is a theocracy that has a religious agenda to purify Islam in their own image. And Saudi Arabia feels very threatened by the Ayatollah. To destroy the Jewish state and to drive us out of the Mideast, the infidels. They say this all the time. On the side of their missiles, they write death to Israel death to America. Hitler wrote a book about what he wanted to do, and nobody believed him, and the rest is history. The most important decision President Trump's going to make in 2025, I think, on the foreign policy field of play, is what to do about the Iranian nuclear ambition. They're exposed, they're weak. Hamas has been decimated, Hezbollah has been severely hurt, and Iran cannot stop Israel from flying into their airspace and hitting virtually any target they want to hit. I am hoping and praying that the nuclear ambitions of the Iranians are eliminated in 2025. One of two ways: through diplomacy or the use of military force by Israel. I think diplomacy has almost zero chance of working. We'll see what President Trump does. But if we could set back their nuclear ambitions, it would unleash the ability of the Mideast to move forward, the Arabs and the Israelis to come together, and the upheaval Iran has created for the last 50 years would be severely limited. I think it's appropriate on the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz that we be talking, that we should have a discussion about what to do to the next group who openly avows killing all the Jews.
But Senator, do you think there's enough bandwidth from the nation of Israel to do this, to get involved into another conflict?
They
and
would
also
need our help.
jeopardize that ceasefire deal possibly?
The ability to hit the Iran nuclear program exists, but they would need some assistance from us, not pilots or American troops, but some technical assistance. Again, this is an uncomfortable conversation for many, and I understand why. But I am telling you, I believe the Ayatollah would use a nuclear weapon if he had it for religious reasons. I don't know why Hitler wanted to kill all the Jews. I don't know why he believed that the Germans and were the master race. I don't know why the Ayatollah believes that his view of religion is the master religion, that all of us should bend a knee to. I can't explain why people think that way. But I can tell you, they don't just think that way, they believe that. I just want you to understand that I believe with all my heart and soul, if Iran got a nuclear weapon, they would use it.
On immigration, what would a final result, an end product look like for you all, for him to be able to shift his...
That we have shut down illegal immigration, that we have deported people here illegally that represent a threat to us, that we'll have modernized the border in a way that this never happens again. And President Trump talked about doing something with DACA. So I don't know where that goes, but I think the main thing is for him to secure the border, to stop future flow, and start sending people back. The day that you see a lot of people leaving the country, people will stop trying to get here. You know, when you see people flying out, they'll stop coming in. And the numbers have already dramatically been reduced. What is success? More bed space so you don't have to turn people loose. More agents to go after criminal gangs. Finish the wall. I gotta run. Thanks,
Thank you
guys.
all. Who do you got in the Super Bowl? Chiefs or Eagles?
You know, how you bet against Mahomes? How do you do that? How does a rational person do it?
Eagles has.
Man, that guy is magic. How do you do that?
I don't want to talk about the Eagles.